Morning all. I thought I'd look at the Carlsen games with black now, just in case there's some really good ideas which I can try and inject later into my own Blitz games on the ITC, and I'll be reviewing the videos myself perhaps a few times. So I'm interested in particular in the openings used. So here Carlsen's black, I flipped the board, so he used the Queen's Gambit accepted. So e3, e5, very energetic play. The advantage of the Queen's Gambit accepted is, both bishops are liberated. It's maybe ending white with an isolated Queen's pawn if he's not careful. So this against Gashimov, 2-6-4-2. So bishop c4, ed, ed. So isolated Queen's pawn. Knight f6. So let's just briefly skim what happened here. So setting up a nice blockade on d5, c6. So Carlsen's positions looks kind of solid. Bishop e6, and I think there's an interesting part of this game where the d pawn drops. Like here, queen takes d4, so attacking the knight, and if queen takes, there's knight e2 check, takes d4, and he's attacking b3. So I think he's managed to grab a pawn because of that. So bishop e6, rook takes, and now he's after that. Although, okay, his opponent's like a pawn down, and he's got bad structure on the queen side. So knight b6 though wins the a7 pawn. First takes on f6. So the rooks seem really good here though, and attacking b2, so black's got a lot of play here. After king g7, either white resigned or lost on time. If knight c5, then there's rook takes, and then rook takes b7. I suppose there's knight e2 with the threat of knight g3 check, and if king h2, knight takes f4, so it's probably a difficult position for white. I'm not really sure what happened. Okay, could have been resigned or lost in time. So the next game, Kramnik against Carlsen. So here, symmetrical, okay, but b6, so challenging indirectly immediately that Ivanchuk bishop. e6, so he's playing like kind of hedgehog style. a6, d6 is potentially vulnerable. Now that's an interesting decision. An immediate bishop takes f3. So I suppose he didn't want any knight d4s. So he's just going to move his rook like this to protect that d6 pawn. Potentially with rook d7, or just get it out of the diagonal is the more important consideration. Holding up white's f5. So black is still kind of solid. He takes on f7, yes. That was tempting. But sacrificing a piece for a couple of pawns. But d5, this is a bit liberating, isn't it? Because the bishop c5, maybe all the dark square control. So he's got a good dark square control. But is his king in trouble? Well, he's holding the fort at the moment. Bishop a5. So that queen's been ran out of squares, and he's skewing now the queen against the rook. So great calculation. And here white resigned. So there's a few forcing moves there. If we look at that, so bishop a5, lovely move to find against Kramnik. So Ivanchuk against Carlsen. So Trompovsky, and he plays h6 and c5. So that's interesting. Just to play e6 first, just try and get the dark square bishop. Now b6 again. So he likes his b6s. The queen's bishop is solved kind of simply. This queen's bishop issue. So now bishop c6, so is he going to double that diagonal? Yes, so threatening to damage the structure of white. Bishop f5, so g6 and g5, so maybe there's g4 coming up. So white gives up the light square bishop. f5, seemingly very aggressive. Now if knight e5, maybe f4, I'm not sure. So f4 did happen anyway, but then queen g4 is black's king being exposed? Well, bishop g7. There's nothing too easy to exploit it seems. So knight f6. So g7 is being held up by the queen at the moment. king f8, nice interesting move, so protecting the rook, and also maybe queen f7 next. Okay, so Carlsen's under great pressure, but is he going to hold his nerve? He's lost so many pawns, so he's 4 pawns down for the piece, 5 pawns down. He's 5 pawns down for the knight. So I think white by this stage has got enough material, but look at this, the counter attack is happening. So check. So it's like the white king's got in trouble somehow. So now rook f5. Aha. Oh dear, it got mated. So the white king got in trouble somehow. That was just unfortunate. So how did that happen? Started with check and taking on f2. So Carlsen got away with that. A lot of pawns for the piece, but he mated Ivanchuk. So Gashimov against Carlsen. So Gashimov actually won this game. So I can't be that bad at blitz. Gashimov is FIDE 2758. Very high on the list. I saw him playing Gibraltar. So this is kind of dragon formation. How did Gashimov play against it? So white's trying to get... He's got a good bind on d5. I think we should carry on reviewing those pawn structures, because I didn't actually believe in this idea much of the outpost on d5 when I said it. I think I need to review that myself, this dragon formation. Why would it be important to have an outpost on d5? Maybe to provoke e6 to make this more of an exploitable weakness. I think that's one of the ideas. It's sort of tempting a transformation structure, you know, where this is weaker. But so check. Now there's a really big gaping hole on d5. So Gashimov is keeping black's counterplay under control, and now he's just winning the d6 pawn. And now this is very dangerous for black. So Gashimov is winning lots of pawns. He's coming back and maybe to try and consolidate. Aha! So he's winning e5 now. So again, he's just a pawn up. So that's kind of annoying for Carlsen. And how does he improve his position against Carlsen? Carlsen's driven back, and now this pawn, I suppose, is a menace soon. Let's check. Okay, quite a bit of technique. Alright, c7 finally. And then is the king coming up here? Well, here Carlsen either resigned or lost on time. So he played. So what was that? A kind of dragon formation, because white did a tricky move order with knight c3, then knight f3, so prompting this dragon formation. So that was interesting. It didn't work out, unfortunately, for Carlsen. So Anand against Carlsen. So he plays d5. He plays e6 instead of the queen's gambit accepted. Bit of variety. Now just bishop e7. So this is interesting, because this is, you know, like my French idea with the early bishop e7, not, you know, playing knight f6 immediately. Anand was tempted just to take on d5 and bishop f4. So we're following a lot of the Karpov-Kasparov games, blitz games earlier in the year. So bishop f5, knight d7. Now g4. So Anand is lashing out on the king side, and here black's rerouting the knight. So bishop d6, getting a lot of dark square pressure, potentially. The classic minority attack is available to Anand, and he's following that, so trying to break the structure of black even more. But Carlsen seems to have opportunities for a kingside attack now. As his queenside gets melted down, he goes for the kingside attack, and he even loses c6, but now white's king is getting it a bit. So rook a2, infiltrating on the 7th rank. Rook takes e3. White king is getting it now. Check. Now g3. So these rooks are very, very dangerous, and Anand decides queen takes e3 is dissolution. But check. And I think it's easier to coordinate the single queen rather than 2 rooks. So Let's see. And these pawns are also dangerous. So d2. So it looks as though, well, Anand got mated here. Okay.